Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today I am joined by Hebe, who is a personal trainer from England who's built an online following of over 500,000 people teaching health and fitness, which you've turned into a full-time business and now launched your very own gym just recently as well. Welcome to the show.
Yeah. Hi.
So tell us a little bit about your story, how you got started in, I guess, first personal training and then social media.
Yeah, so I initially started personal training probably about 5 years ago now, and it more was just like a passion. I had initially a career in dance, so I was always someone who was super active, really interested in firstly like my physique, but also just general health and fitness. And when I did stop, or when my dancing cut down a lot, i.e. when I came out of training, I felt that I wanted to do something alongside that matched up. My boyfriend was also a PT at the time, and it's actually funny because I probably didn't actually envisage myself doing that until I went into that environment. And being someone that speaks to a lot of people, and I'm quite a confident person, it just like very, very quickly sat really well. So I did my training, and I initially was a PT and absolutely loved it, face to face, and always wanted to go online, but really had no idea of how to do so. And it kind of was just like a really like far goal of mine to go online. And I just, at no point was there any alignment in how I was going to get there. At no point did I say to myself, okay, this is what I need to do to get there. It was more a sense of I'm happy in the gym and this is kind of how it's going to go. So from there, I was a PT again, as I said, probably for about 2.5, 3 years. And then we went into obviously lockdown. And from there, everything changed. And I suppose we went into this scenario that everyone was going into, and me and my boyfriend were both pretty much self-employed at the time, a little bit short on cash, and we were like, okay, right, what are we going to do here? We either sit in this space and do nothing, or we take control of this, I suppose, opportunity really. And from there, it just kind of took off. I just was there helping people. And I genuinely feel like one of the biggest reasons for any growth on my social media initially was because I genuinely wanted to help. And I feel like probably very similar to you, like genuinely just want to help people. There was no underlying cause for me to try and grow my social media at the time. It just was, this is what I've got, this is what I'm going to have to deal with, and we kind of go from there. So yeah, from there it just grew pretty rapidly, and then within a year I launched my online coaching service, and then within another year we then opened our own premises in a gym. Again, that was a really, really far goal. Again, something that I never put two and two together, but the fact that we have it now is absolutely amazing and super exciting. But yeah, so that's, I suppose, my background.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome story, I guess, taking that, going into lockdown, everything changes, everything's uncertain, and using that time to jump on and go online. I think that piece that you mentioned where you say that you became successful on social media just because you genuinely wanted to help and actually had experience and results, and you had clients you were dealing with, so you knew what struggles people went through, which I guess allows you to create content that actually helps people, actually serves people.
Sure.
And that's a huge part of it. What would you say have been like the 2 to 3 things, aside from content that really helps people, that has helped you build your Instagram audience? Because you're about to hit 200K, I believe, on Instagram.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's really hard to pinpoint a couple of things. I think it's a combination of a lot of things, but primarily consistency. I have been religiously consistent the whole time. I think also, as you said, I suppose providing value towards your audience, but also creating a community. One thing that I've put in my like journal for this year is the word community, and that is on social media, that is through my gym, that is through my business, and that is, I genuinely think, the biggest factor to anything is building a community. And it's really hard, especially online.
Yeah.
Being not really like forward facing, I suppose, on Instagram initially, where I grew. When I first grew, there were no reels, so it was very static, if that makes sense. Like, it was photos, don't
Yeah.
get me wrong, I did videos and stuff, and I did a lot of lives, which is what I initially grew from as well, because I did a lot of free live workouts. But I definitely think it's community, consistency, and just providing value, really.
Yeah, community is definitely a big one. And like you say, tricky to build online, but if you get it down, it's awesome.
Sure, 100%.
Yeah. Now, the other thing I wanted to ask is you started on social media and you didn't launch your online coaching for, it sounded about 10, 12 months, was it?
Yeah.
And were you just using it to get clients locally and then eventually changed, or?
Initially, I tried online coaching in lockdown, but it just didn't sit quite right with me at the time. It didn't feel right. The system that I was using just wasn't what I initially kind of wanted. It just didn't feel quite right. And I was like, right, I don't know what this is, but I stopped and I almost reevaluated it. I felt like I went into it as a little bit rushed. I wanted more systems behind it, and I wanted it to be not like an initial success, but I wanted to ensure that I had the systems in place for potentially an increase in client or whatever that may be. And I think as well, at the time, I was so focused and so happy on socials that at the time, again, I was like, do you know what? I'm happy doing what I'm doing right now. I'm in lockdown. I've got this opportunity in where I might never have again. And I don't know, I suppose I just... Initially, I just wasn't there to monetize my platform at first. And like, I was very similar with brands that I was working with. I was very picky with who I would work with, just because I'm sure probably for a lot of people, I genuinely only wanted to work with brands that really, really resonated with me, or brands that I actually genuinely loved. So again, like for me initially, monetization just wasn't there, or it just wasn't the focus, to be honest. It wasn't the sole focus. And I had no idea. So as well as that, I just had no idea what I could do with this platform. At the time, it was just about building friends and a community and kind of just carrying on doing what I was doing. I didn't want to lose that mojo, if that made sense. I was in this growth stage and I just was enjoying that. But when we did go to launch the online coaching, that was at a point where we were like, okay, we're back at work now. We don't want to be here. How do we do this? And when I say we, obviously I mean me and my boyfriend. One thing that I would say as well massively throughout this whole thing is he's been hugely supportive, and I think that that's something that's really important, is he's fully behind me. And I think just having that extra set of hands with everything, like it's 6 o'clock in the morning and he's at the gym, running the gym at the moment. So like he's just like, we come as a pair, really, and I know that people don't often see that, but I think that that's also something that's been massively helpful as well. I'm going off tangent a little bit, but I think that just having someone else kind of there just to back you, and also was so helpful to reaffirm certain things that I was trying to do. Like, yeah, let's do this. Yeah, let's try this. Obviously, he's also a personal trainer, so everything was super easy and super natural having him in the process as well. But yeah. I can't remember what you even asked me initially. I've just gone off on a tangent.
Oh, it was just about that period of not having an online coaching. Thing, that's really good.
Yeah.
No, that's an awesome point. Because I guess everyone second guesses themselves, whether it's with, I don't know, what they're doing in the gym, what they're doing with Instagram, what they're doing with their business. And so if you got someone there to back you up and, you know, reaffirm what you're doing, especially if they've got that insight as well, it must be definitely very, very helpful, I can imagine.
100%.
When you, and I guess also with the brand deal side of things, I think that's another mistake that a lot of people make that clearly you've avoided, is I think too many people jump into a brand deal that's something they don't really want to promote, and they're small, so they might only be getting $100 or, you know, a smaller, even just a discount code, and they're getting a commission on something they don't really like, and then it hurts their community and you lose a bit of your mojo, as you say, which I think is a good point for other people to learn from you as well. When you did start selling personal training online and wanted to go full time with it, how did you go about converting your audience and your community into paying clients and so on?
Yeah, I suppose initially I was quite anxious about it because I had only ever provided free, valuable content. And I was like, okay, how is this going to match up. And to be honest, it went so much better than I ever could have imagined. So I suppose initially, I was still, the one thing that I consistently did was still provided that initial content. So I was still giving away all of the stuff that I was doing before, and providing, I was actually at the time still doing live workouts because we were still in some number lockdown, I don't even know, maybe the third lockdown. So we were still obviously in a position where everyone was at home. And yeah, I decided to carry on doing these live workouts, which I felt just, again, really built that kind of trust as well. So I felt like people could see it actually, firstly knew what I was doing, but secondly, just had, again, a little bit of that community. I suppose that for me, in a fitness sense, the thing that always sells, or always gets the most leads / conversions, is always transformation photos. So progress photos. And I think that sometimes there's a little bit of like a negative stigma around them on socials. But I think that realistically, for people to build a successful coaching business, I don't think they're essential, but I think that they're pretty good. The one thing that we always say is, if you can get like really good results, you're going to build a good business, if that makes sense. Like if you can see that person knows what they're doing and is getting results, like it is literally it's literally the only thing that sells and also gets great clients. So I think that, and also again, just I did have to switch a little bit of my content, potentially more to the coaching side rather than like an influencer, if that makes sense. I felt that my content was very personal to me and kind of what I wanted to do. And also, I suppose you build a following of people you relate to. So whatever I initially wanted to upload, I suppose, was very similar to what they wanted me to see, because we were very, I suppose, relatable. Whereas I had to switch that out a little bit. And I did find that hard, going from influencer to a little bit more coaching based, a little bit more serious sometimes. Some of my content was a little bit more serious, and a little bit more like science based, if that makes sense, like in the fitness world. So again, if we're going primarily to what converts, I would say always progress photos, and definitely relatable content. Like I'm a girl who, I like going to the gym, but my life isn't fitness. My life is not, I wake up in the morning and the first thing I think about is the gym. Although I tend to go in the morning because I can't go later in the day, because I genuinely won't, because I'm a normal person. And I think that's the thing, is I think there's different fitness accounts out there. And I think some people are literally life and soul fitness. And like, I'm just the normal person, very relatable, the same as a lot of other people, all my friends. Like, I go to the gym because I want to stay fit and I want to look good, or as good as I can, not because I have this underlying passion for, like, I love gym, I love it. It's lifestyle for me. And I think that also really helps, is just showing those parts, is that I'm just completely normal. Sometimes I don't like going to the gym. Sometimes I eat shit, like all of this kind of stuff. And I think, being relatable is massive.
Yeah, and just being real with people, because I mean, you're a real human like everyone else, and so it's good to show that. It's good to show people.
Yeah, 100%.
I'm one of those weirdos that goes in that evening, that despises goes in the morning, and we just, I don't know. I've always loved it in the evening.
No,
once everything's done, you don't have to think about anything.
No, it's not for me. I don't know what it is. I've tried it. I definitely have, and it just doesn't work for me.
Fair enough. Whatever works.
Exactly. As long as you're going, that's the main point.
Exactly. And a great point you touched on with the results side of things, which realistically goes for any sort of personal trainers, any sort of coaches, any sort of agencies, any sort of, literally anything you're selling a result, like, show the results, which can go for, I would say, the majority of industries. Sure. If you can show people results, that's going to be by far the best way to convert them. And putting in all that effort to build up that community in the first place definitely helps a ton too. Now, another platform you're absolutely crushing it on, and I think you've actually got more of an audience on TikTok, correct, than Instagram?
I have.
What advice would you have for people who want to build on TikTok? Is there anything different to Instagram that you found there, or?
I suppose with TikTok, I started it a lot later. So I started it when I probably already had over 100,000 on Instagram. So I had no idea how it was going to kind of work. Again, my boyfriend was like, get on TikTok, and I was like, and I actually really was a bit uncomfortable about it. I just felt like I didn't have that like pizzazz for it. I was like, how am I going to be able to do these? Like, I suppose I just initially thought I was going to have to like dance and like talk. And obviously, I know I went to dance college, but it's not TikTok. And I was like, I don't know. I just started it, and to be honest, I think that's the first thing. Just go for it. TikTok is amazing. Like, you can go viral so easily on there, and I think the only thing that I suppose I'd say I did differently was I just churned out more content, and I also didn't like worry about it as much. You put things out there and it just doesn't do well. You put things out there and it does so well. You put the same thing out that you did yesterday or very similar and it flops, yet you do it the next day and it does incredibly well. And I think that's the thing with TikTok. You just have to keep going. And of course, if things aren't working, I think there's definitely things that you can implement and change. There's definitely things I've done that just haven't worked. I've gone, okay, right, scrap that, move on to the next idea. But it's really creative. I think it's really fun. And I think the only thing that I would say is different is potentially for me, the community side isn't there as much because there's not as much like interaction. I feel like my page has always grown from kind of workouts or informative content rather than me as a person, and I feel like that's something that again I'm trying to work on this year, trying to kind of focus a little bit more on getting my personality out there, which I think is easy to do on TikTok. I just don't think I have utilized that enough, but when it comes to growth, it's really like I would put it as a top priority. I think it's super important to get onto.
Yeah, and just churn out lots of content.
Just churn out lots of content, just literally everything. Like the same, I kind of put a couple of brand pillars down at the beginning of the year. And I think that was kind of what is my page about? What are both my pages about? What everything that I do, what is that about? And that is fitness, like mindset and nutrition. Kind of that's the things that I enjoy speaking about. And I just try to manipulate content around that and just be consistent with it. As I said, not everything's going to do well, and that's fine, but definitely showing your personality, which is one thing I wish I did more of, I think would get you even further on there, and also get you a more engaged Instagram as well. You see big TikTokers and they have massive engagement on their Instagrams, and I think that that's something that is amazing that you can get from such a new platform. So yeah, I would say just keep turning it out. Don't worry about like perfecting it, essentially. Definitely if you find that works well, like some aesthetic videos do super well on TikTok, but I actually find that sometimes like the more rough cut videos actually do a lot better. Like I have a videographer and the videos he does for me never do well on there. Like they only do well on Instagram. So it's just funny trying to get that difference between like Reels and TikTok as well. And remembering that sometimes the thing that went viral on Reels didn't go viral on TikTok and vice versa. But yeah, just turn them out, be consistent, and don't procrastinate over it. I think that's as well something that's really important because you can chuck things up there so quickly.
Yeah, it's definitely a habit to build. And I think, like you say, with the TikTok algorithm, because it's pretty much all for you traffic, like it's not following, you're not going on there and seeing content from your friends and so on. So if you do post something that like is, I don't know, puts you out your comfort zone, doesn't get much views, doesn't really matter. Like it's not going out to all of your friends on Instagram. It's just goes to a few people, gets shut down. And yeah, if you can push them over to Instagram, definitely good. What have you noticed many other differences between Reels and TikTok? Like you're saying you get highly edited stuff does better on Reels, but anything else you've noticed?
It's hard. I would say there's been times where both like things have done well on both things, but honestly, more often than not, what's done well on one never does well on the other. It's just typical for me anyway. I think that Reels are definitely behind the game in the sense of trending sounds. I think that it's behind in a lot of other things essentially. So I think the only thing that I would say is when you bring a trending sound over to Reels, it tends to have already been and gone on TikTok. I don't know if that's what a lot of people notice. I tend to notice that quite a lot. But in regards to kind of content, I would say it just tends to be the more perfected videos do a lot better on Reels. And also the kind of more choppy changey ones do a little bit better on TikTok. The other thing that I would say is I've now started editing them both in their own apps. I did initially try to kind of mix and match and do both, but it just doesn't seem to work. I think they probably both like you utilizing the features that they have. And that was something that I've tried to start doing a little bit more, because I felt that although it takes more time, I was really, really trying to do my best to not have to do that. But I think you just have to at some point. I'm trying to think of any other things that I think do well on one and not the other. I suppose things that do well initially for me have always been like what I eat in a day. So providing recipes, all of that kind of stuff. I also find that I quite often ask my audience what they want to see, and sometimes even the things that they say don't always perform as well as I anticipate, because they've said, I want to see this. I'm like, okay, right, this is what they want to see, and I upload it, and then Reels just or TikTok don't take it off. But it's a testing game, and it's a game that you have to be in for the long run. But I think they're both really, really great. But there's just definitely differences in that, and I sometimes haven't quite worked them all out just yet. I think Reels are still so new. Even TikTok's new to me. Like it's been a year, so it's all quite new still.
Definitely a testing game. I think that goes for everything, but especially Reels and TikToks and that kind of content. Like, just get out there, start doing it, adapt as you go.
Mm-hmm.
But an interesting what you say with the sounds being a bit behind, because I have seen some people say that, where they think that Instagram's about 2 weeks behind on trending sounds, audios, etc. So if you want to get in early on any Instagram Reels trends, just jump on TikTok, find what's trending, and you'll be 2 weeks ahead apparently. But
that's interesting.
Yeah. Now, COVID has changed things, I guess, massively for personal trainers. You can't get as many in-person sessions, and probably even less people, I would imagine, going to the gyms. For personal trainers that have gone from working in the gym floor that want to go online and start coaching online, what would be like your best advice you can give them? Because obviously you've done this pretty awesomely over a couple of years. So if you like distill that down, I guess, good things, bad things you've done, mistakes.
Yeah, definitely. I think, first of all, which is actually a question I got asked yesterday on my Instagram, is I think in-person training initially is pretty crucial for wanting to go online. You learn so much doing stuff in person, face to face. There's lots of things that you learn about a client. There's lots of things you learn about people. There's lots of things you learn about, I don't know, even the way that people potentially have you stayed on track? Like, you learn so much about people. And I think that's, first of all, if you have the chance to, if you're like, before you start, I would always recommend doing in-person training first. Secondly, I think that you don't have to have a following to be able to monetize online coaching. And that's something that I wish that I knew before, because I think there's also, you can make just as much money, if not more, from the amount of client, if for example, like number to, what am I trying to say? Like,
follow if you, client.
Yeah, essentially. I think it's just so important to not be so focused on the number that is on the screen. I know that I have had that massive benefit through my own hard work and consistency, but I know that I have that initial push, but I could have still done it definitely 100% with less of a following. I wish that I'd put it in sooner. I think that, again, providing this valuable content, also not worrying about like the likes and things on there, because you see some huge fitness coaches in the industry and they have good followings, their engagement's like all right, but their whole page is business, their whole page is, it's not their personal page. Like, mine is a mixture of both, I suppose, but theirs is literally a business focused page. So provide really valuable content. Also, one thing that I think is massive is providing content for the client, not for another coach. I think that coaches quite often create content to look like they know what they're talking about for other coaches, and actually the more convoluted the words that you say, people don't understand. Like, there's so many things that you have to simplify for people, and I think that's something that's super important. again, just consistency, be busy on your stories, a lot of Q&As, all of that kind of stuff, and also just show those results when you have them. The one thing that I would say is when you first initially start, make sure that you have a pack that you know you're going to ask your clients whether you can use their photos or not. Obviously, you firstly need to ask permission, but just have that in the back of your mind that you are going to want to utilize some of these progress photos, because as soon as you do that, I think the ball kind of starts rolling as soon as you start using those. And like client testimonials, client feedback, videos of clients, a lot of things I get, a lot of clients I get as well through meals that I eat. I try and eat a lot, or I try to advocate a lot of kind of 80-20, i.e. eating 80% nutritious foods, 20% less nutritious foods, and people seem to love that as well. So I think just a combination of things, do what works for you, but in the sense of still provide value that's simplified.
Yeah, not trying to complicate it too much, and just put it in layman's terms for the people you're trying to reach. They
100%.
can't understand it. It's not ideal.
Definitely. I think people forget that a lot of the time when people want to lose weight or they have issues with food or whatever that may be, is it's just down to a lot of they're just not educated, and as well on social media, unfortunately, negative, like there's so much negative or incorrect information out there, and it is hard. It's trying to distinguish and promote yourself and try to allow people to trust you that you're giving out the right content, and you're not going to get everyone, but I think that all of those things will hopefully create that stronger bond and that trust through the people that follow you.
Yeah, definitely. And like you say, not needing to have a massive following. Like if you build a small community of engaged people who are following you because they want to learn from you, like you can have a couple thousand followers and have a full-time income from,
100%.
because you only need, I don't know, depends what you charge, I guess, but a handful of clients that are paying you consistently to do so.
I think one thing as well, just on that, is don't undercharge. I think that a lot of people go into this and think like, I don't need to charge loads, or I don't know. I don't know what the mindset is, but I think you go onto online and think, I don't know why you would go from a gym and then go online and think you're less qualified, because actually you're, if not more. Do you know what I mean? It's people then go on and go, oh, I'm new to it, like I'll test it, I'll just put the prices low. And I definitely did that when I first tested it. And I had a good amount of people and an average following, but I was charging too little, and I wish that I didn't do that. I'm glad that obviously I'm in a completely different position now, but definitely don't undercharge as well.
Yeah, I think especially when you undercharge, like if you're not making as much from it, and then you're not, I guess, as committed to it, you're not going to be giving your absolute best, and they're not going to be getting the best results, and it doesn't really benefit anyone trying to go for that.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's a job at the end of the day. Like you can't expect to not get paid for it. But it also makes it more difficult when you then need to up your fees because you're too busy. That then is so difficult because you're in a position where you can't actually increase it anymore, because you've got loads of if you're good at it, hopefully you'll have lots of long-term clients that you want to keep and want to keep progressing with, yet you can't add new clients in that you'll be charging more with, and you don't really want to increase the other clients. So it's that really difficult. You don't want to get in that vicious cycle, I suppose. Yeah,
that definitely makes sense, because I don't know, I didn't think about it too much for a monthly recurring like cost, like personal training, but you can't really stick it up for new people, for existing people or new people. So I guess it puts you in a tricky situation.
Definitely.
Do you have a rough number that you think people should start out with, or is it just a case of look at how much you charge someone at your local gym and then charge the same amount per hour? Or
I think it's very different dependent on where you are. I think that as well, I probably charge a lot less than some really big coaches out there. Reason being as well, you have to think about your audience. My audience are primarily younger females, so I have to also think about that. But I would say that for anyone who wants to do that, When I initially started, I charged what I charge someone for one session a week in a month. So for example, say it was £30 per hour, I was essentially charging £30 per week. So that is what I initially did. Although obviously the hour wasn't physically with that person, it was obviously all done on plans and all of that kind of stuff. That's the way that I looked at charging it. And also I feel like you have to also put the value of time in there as well. Like, time is so valuable, and also the value of being able to do it wherever else you can do it. So for example, going to Spain, you can do it in Europe, you can go anywhere, and that price is just so valuable, if that makes sense. So also think about that, of course, but I think that's a good place to start, I would say.
Yeah, and you've also built a lot of like assets as well that you give away to clients correctly, like recipes and a lot of digital downloads and so on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. So we have a platform that we use. The platform is Linus. So it is they're based in Copenhagen, so not here in the UK, but they actually got in contact with me, and they said, look, we want to work with you, we provide a platform X, Y and Z, and again, I was a little bit anxious about it because we had initially, as I said, tried to come up with these systems to work it essentially manually, but taking their step was definitely the best decision we ever made, because the system allows us to scale the business essentially in a way that we would never have been able to. The platform's amazing. We upload our own meals, we upload our own recipes. They also have their own recipes on there, so they have like a recipe book that we can also utilize, which initially to start with was amazing, because you are trying to launch this business and you're like, oh my god, I've got so much to do. So their platform is absolutely brilliant. They take a percentage, which is quite common, I suppose, for big platforms. The only thing that I would say is it's a much bigger investment than the standard kind of train heroic, PT Distinction. These are all just online coaching platforms essentially. It's a lot bigger of an investment, but absolutely worth it, especially when you're starting up.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know those platforms specifically, but building like those things where you can put the time in once to create something, a meal plan, a spreadsheet, a calculator, a template for content if you're a social media manager, that you can then offer your clients and sell potentially over and over and over and over is really important as like a creator, an educator, whatever, that can definitely help you with your business a lot, which I like the way you've done that with putting all those meals in and building that out.
Sure.
What was it like going from like building an audience online, coaching, and then going back to building your own gym? Because that's just recently launched a few months ago, correct? A couple months ago?
Yeah, a couple of months ago now. I can't lie, the gym has been the most stressful thing I've ever done in my life. But it's very different. I think that the gym is like I said, like I've left Matt to the gym, like that's his kind of thing. That's his side of the business. Like my side is the online coaching, although we're both 50-50 in both, of course. That was something that he always wanted to do. And I think that when we initially had the money to invest, we were like, okay, what should we do? And there was lots of things that we could have done. Buy a new car, we could have moved out, we could have moved to Spain for a couple of months, but it was trying to work out what in the long run was going to be something that was sustainable for us. And yeah, we decided, okay, this is the right thing to do. We again have this, I suppose we just have this driving force to like help people in the area and try and provide a service that here there isn't around here. So I think going from being in the gym to being online to being back in the gym was quite hard. The days are very long. So the gym opens at 6 a.m. The gym closes at 8 p.m. There is a break in the middle of the day because we only do face-to-face sessions, so that it's not an open gym. So it's essentially just a group PT studio. So everyone comes in groups of potentially up to 6 to 8, and they all work out together. We have 2 coaches running the sessions at a time. So the only thing that I would say of benefit of that for us is we now have our own kind of hub to work from in the middle of the day. I think, sorry, going back to your question, I think the transition was definitely challenging. Obviously, having the ability to work from wherever you want to, having the ability to work your own hours as you want to was a massive luxury for us. And almost we've taken that step back to kind of go back into the gym, work those hours that we have to. But I think that it's, when you go in there, like the sense of community there is so much bigger and so much better. And as I said, my word for 2022 was community. And I think that like in there, like it's just being built and built and built. And it's really nice to have that face-to-face contact with people. Whereas when you're online, you are just talking to someone over a chat function. I don't even really have calls with my clients very much because I'm just too busy. I find that I then don't get other things done. I don't get plans written, for example. So I find that just having that face-to-face contact is really, really nice. It's really natural, and it's a really different, it's a different kind of vibration to what you have online. It's completely different. The only thing that I would say was we do miss that luxury of being able to do whatever when we want to. And I think that the goal in the long run, and it's always what the initial goal was that Matt would step out, and that we would then have people in there essentially to manage, and we would just upskill and coach, and we would obviously allow them to coach how we wanted them to, essentially. But we do have a manager in there at the moment who's also called Matt, which is really confusing. So Matt and Matt run the gym at the moment, and yeah, he's great. He's been super helpful. He's been with us from the start. We knew him as a PT before, so just having him has been super helpful as well.
Yeah, so I guess they complement each other. The two complement each other. You've got your online stuff that you build the audience, and then some of those people are going to come into clients in the gym, but then you've also got the gym where you get to connect with more people, build that community, which probably helps with creating content and understanding people's needs, struggles, etc. For that side of things too, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I think the gym has been a lot harder than the online. The online business was so much more successful in a very quick, in a quicker time, essentially. The online business grew rapidly, whereas the gym has been a lot more of a slow burner. I feel like with the gym, you have to prove yourself a little bit more as well, because you're literally in like a certain, I don't know, you're just there, and like people can come. And I think with the gym it's a little bit of a snowball effect. I'm waiting for it to happen, but I feel like it will be that kind of snowball effect of, which probably is quite similar online. I think that I was just lucky that when I launched my online, I was in a really good place with my socials, which really helped. So the gym has definitely been a slower burner, and it costs a lot more. Oh my goodness, it's so expensive. And that, again, I forget that's a massive luxury that you have with the online business, is your outgoings are so little in comparison to having a gym, or a premises, I suppose. But yeah, it is great fun. It's a lot more expensive. I definitely think it's a slower burner. I think it's harder to gain trust. Potentially that's because it's a new business as well. But in the long run, it'll be great. So I'm just holding out for that.
Yeah, hopefully that comes pretty soon then.
100%.
Yeah, and again, I guess those two business models again complement each other. You've got the high profit margins from the online coaching, which you can then put back into something that's potentially could be around for 10, 20, 30, however many years, as long as you want. To wrap things up, I think this is probably my last question, is what would be the best advice you would give your younger self for, I guess, going in, I guess we'll keep it around like social media / personal training side of things. What like any mistakes that you made that you wouldn't have, or anything, things that you did do that you think was awesome and you definitely would do again?
That's really hard. There's probably a lot of things. I think that from like if it was really personal to me and my younger self, like I'm a very anxious person, so I don't think that people necessarily think that about me because I'm quite confident on social media, like I've built a following. But I think that just if it was, I don't know, if I was saying something to from my younger self to my older self, I'd probably just say, like, don't worry, don't panic. I think that there's so much to come yet. There's so much more in life to work on than like just being anxious about things and just worrying about taking that step. Like, you just have to take that step. And I'm so glad that I did, because I think that things are so different now to what they were before, because I just went for it. I think as well, I don't know, I think one thing that I did really well when I was younger is I was pretty consistent with uploads still. I wouldn't say that my content was as good, in the sense of I didn't really focus heavily on what photos I was taking. I didn't really like edit much of my workouts. I just kind of uploaded it. But I still was consistent, and I always had a driving passion for being on social media, I suppose, but it just never really grew. I suppose one thing that I started doing was I started using hashtags, and at that time it really, really worked, and managed to help initially grow my socials. But I think that I was very active in the sense of, for example, like Gymshark, I obviously work with them at the moment on like short-term contracts, and I used to go to their events. So like I genuinely, like I used to go and I used to love it, and I was so passionate about it. So the fact that, looking back onto it now, that like that is literally what my life is, I literally could not have even imagined. And that is just from putting myself forward and just going for it. I suppose another thing that I would say is to be selfish. I don't think, even up until probably 2020, I don't think I ever was particularly selfish towards myself, whereas now I'm a lot more, in a really good way, I'm a lot more selfish in the sense of I prioritise my working day, I prioritise myself going to the gym, I prioritise coming home, and although I'm not very good at switching off, Matt tells me off about that a lot, I do try and prioritise myself over a lot of other things. And I think that's something that I wish I taught myself sooner, because you are your only, like, you are your pride and joy, essentially. Like, you are the only person that you can fend for. I know you're in, like, if you're in a relationship, I completely get that you have a partner, but you are always going to be you. And I think that that's super important, to be selfish, to be unselfish, if that makes sense. But yeah, there's lots of things I could tell myself, and lots of things that I wish I'd changed. I wish I was more confident, but that's going to come with time. And I think just go for it. Be yourself and just go for it.
Definitely. That's awesome. So for those listening, take risks, back yourself and look after yourself.
100%.
Awesome. It's been awesome having you on. Where can people find more about you and about your personal training, about your social media? I'll leave any links down below.
Yeah, sure. So my social media is Hebe Hiom PT. That is literally the same on Instagram and TikTok. And then I do have a YouTube, which is just Hebe Hiom, and that it will eventually grow. I am persistent with that. And that is, again, that is where community is built. So 2020 community. But yeah, just follow me for any kind of like fitness tips, and also obviously you can probably see my day-to-day life if you are interested in kind of seeing what I do as a coach. It's 6:48 in the morning right now, so I'm looking forward to my day. I'm probably going to go and try and work out what my day looks like in a minute. But yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been super fun.
Perfect. Yeah, you've definitely got some awesome content, so definitely go check that out. I will link that below, and yeah, thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much.